Sugar. Sugar is a staple ingredient in Filipino delicacies. It is used to prepare local snacks like carioca, pichi-pichi, pico, and banana Q. But have you ever asked yourself, where did this sugar come from? This is Daniela Granoli in another episode of History Behind the Plate. The primary producer of sugar in the Philippines is the Negros Island, specifically Negros Occidental. According to the Sugar Regulatory Administration, Negros accounted for 64% of the 2.1 million metric ton of domestic sugar production in 2018. This is equivalent to 1,344,000 metric ton of raw sugar. How did the sugar industry start? Long before the Philippines was colonized, the Negrenses were already producing sugar for their personal use. However, when Spaniards occupied the country, they influenced the locals to commercialize this product, making Philippines a primary exporter of sugar in European countries. This prosperous international trade left a mark in the island, with numerous mansions built as indication of Negros Occidental's rich history. An example of this is the ruins in Talisay, which was built by a sugar baron named Don Mariano in remembrance of his wife who passed away after conceiving their 11th child. The mansion was built within a 440-hectare of sugar plantation. Unfortunately, it was eventually left to burn for a total of 3 days, leaving us with the cement structure as the only remnant of the building. The motivation behind this varies per source. Others say that it was the Filipino guerrillas who burned it down after they heard that Don Mariano welcomed Japanese occupants. The other side of the story states that it was the American colonizers who ordered this because they wanted to give their successors a hard time in penetrating the Philippines. The last argument is that Don Mariano himself willingly surrendered the house to hinder Japanese occupants from using it as their military office. Currently, the ruins is made available to the public at a very low price, with only 100 pesos for adults, 50 pesos for students, 60 pesos for senior citizens, and only 20 pesos for children below 8 years old. As soon as this pandemic situation gets better, I encourage everyone to book a flight to Negros Occidental and pay a visit to Negros Occidental's most famous tourist attraction. It is important to note that the history of sugar production in the island was not all too sweet. In the 1980s, Negros experienced the worst famine that hit Philippines. After the Spaniards commercialized the Negrenses sugar production, the Americans continued the exportation of sugar from the Philippines. In the 1960s to 1970s, the Philippines and the United States had an agreement named Laurel-Langley Pact, wherein the Philippines was assured to have an annual quota of sugar exports to the US, which drastically increased the commission of Negros Occidental. However, European countries became a competitor of Philippines in the global market. Because of government subsidy, they were able to drop the price of sugar. There was a declining demand for sugar imports in the United States. Hence, by 1974, the Laurel-Langley Pact was not renewed. This decreased the Philippines' export to United States from 1.2 million tons to only 330,000 tons of sugar in 1975. This economic decline is not only a result of international trade problems, but also a product of internal issues. It has been revealed that Roberto Benedicto, the crony of then-President Marcos, underreported profits by as much as $430 million. Benedicto was a fraternity brother of Marcos at the University of the Philippines. He was assigned as chief of the National Sugar Trading Corporation and its parent regulatory body, the Philippine Sugar Commission, in years 1978 to 1983. With high hopes that the price of sugar would increase, Benedicto hoarded a large amount of sugar. When things didn't go as expected, the martial law of Marcos enabled him to pass on the losses to the planters, which makes them unable to pay the wage of their workers. This started the famine in Negros Occidental. Among the most affected individuals were children. Out of roughly 946,000 Negrenses aged below 15, 700,040 suffered from malnutrition. This is 74% of their entire population. This miserable condition was the inspiration behind Freddie Aguilar's song, Mga Bata sa Negros. This is a short clip from the song.
Naiiyak ako sa aking nakita kaibigan. Ang mga bata sa Negros ay kumukulungan dyan. Wala silang makain, ang gutom tinitiis na lang. May mga pinanawan ng buhay dahil sa
That's all for our topic today about the sugar production of Negros Occidental. I would just like to cite a quote from Winston Churchill that says, "Those who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeat it." So, the next time that you add a spoon of sugar in your coffee, be reminded of the bittersweet story of Negros Occidental. Again, this is Daniela Granoli reminding you to know the history behind the plate.